Hello, you're watching Conscious TV and my name is Renate McNay. Today in the studio with me is Unmani. Hello, Unmani. Several of our viewers wrote in and suggested to bring Unmani to Conscious TV, and we are happy to have you here just before she is leaving to live in Australia for the next 6 months. Unmani has 2 books written. One is To Die to Love, and one is I Am Life Itself. And we are talking with you today about your life and your work and your awakening. And the way I would like to start is just read a couple of sentences, and then we venture into that more in depth. And it starts with, once upon a time, there was a little girl called me. Well, everyone else called me Lisa. This is simply a story with a beginning, with a middle and an end. So let's talk a little bit about this story around Lisa. When did you first become aware that there is something like a story, which is actually not you, which is probably just a program? When did you realize that this has nothing to do with who you are?
Well, I think that it came actually much later that I was actually aware that there was some kind of separate personality, because as a child I kind of innocently didn't really understand what the hell was going on. I really didn't know what other people seemed to want when they asked me questions, or what I wanted, or my opinion. I just felt very lost a lot of the time.
Yes.
So it was only much later, as maybe as a teenager, when I realised that actually I need some kind of personality in order to survive.
Right.
Some kind of storyline.
Yes.
Because everyone else seemed to have a storyline.
Yes. And how was your story? Did you have a happy story?
As a teenager, not so great.
Or as a child, did you have a good childhood?
Yeah.
Was something happening in your childhood which was already leading into this direction for you to go on a spiritual search?
Well, in a way, it all started when I was a child.
Yeah.
And now I'm absolutely grateful to that child.
Yes.
Because it was that child that always knew this, that always recognised her true nature.
So how did you recognize that?
I've no idea how.
Yeah.
But I know that that was all that I knew. I mean, to put it into words, already it sounds as if there's someone who knew it, but then there was no question of anyone who knew anything.
Right.
It was just pure and simple, really.
Yeah.
And it was only later on that it seemed to get complicated, when, in order to survive, this playing out of a me or a personality started to come up and assume that I should know something, or that something's missing in my life because I don't know.
So did you feel different then? I don't know if you have brothers or sisters.
I have one sister.
So did you feel different than the rest of your family?
I don't know how they felt. Well, I can only assume how they felt.
You mentioned in the book that, for example, when your parents said something to you, like, look at this beautiful tree or beautiful flower, a lot of anger came up in you.
Yeah, that was because there was somehow, when they said, look at this particular beautiful tree, it seemed to be that they were denying the fact that everything is beautiful, or even that everything is the same.
Yes.
And in fact, everything is ordinary. Not that it's not beautiful.
Yeah.
But it isn't limited to the word beautiful.
Yeah, so it seems that you never completely disconnected from the never changing or from the absolute, it seems.
Yeah, there's been a continuation that hasn't been broken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that also shows that you must have had a very caring and beautiful upbringing.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Yeah, my parents
Yeah.
obviously loved me very much, and
Yeah.
my sister as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what happened then? So you became a teenager
and full of rage,
Yeah.
like a lot of teenagers.
What
and a
were
lot
you raging about?
everything.
Okay,
But,
you were in
particularly-
opposition with life.
Yeah. Well, I realised that there was something very wrong about the way I was living life, or the way everything seemed to be living life, everyone, around me, or the way that I seemed to be expected to live my life. When actually I had no idea. I didn't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I had no, like I said, no opinions or desires at all. I was just absolutely okay in whatever I was doing, whenever I was doing it.
Yes.
But then, because that wasn't enough, people kept on asking me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
What's your favourite colour? What's your favourite subject at school? I don't know, I'm just sitting here is okay. I never knew more than that.
Right, and you never wanted to know more
No,
than that.
never.
So there was never this urge in you to find out what life is about or what's...
Yeah, but not from... It was only because I realised that since everybody else around me seemed to know what they want and where they're going, where their future's leading,
Yes.
they had lots of opinions about things, I started to assume that there was something wrong with me,
Okay.
that I didn't know, that I didn't
Yes.
find an identity. When somebody asked me, about my personality, I couldn't find anyone here. And so I assumed I have a problem. There's something wrong with me.
Right.
Something missing.
So you couldn't find anybody there?
No.
Did you talk with your parents about that?
I didn't have the language, I didn't know
Did it
how to
frighten you?
I remember having a conversation with my dad, actually. One day when I was at primary school, I must have been 7 or something like that. I remember coming home from school being quite upset because everyone at school seemed to have opinions. I think it was about a football team or something. And I, first of all, didn't know anything about football, but even if I did, this was just an example of so many things where I didn't have an opinion.
Yes.
And I said to my dad, what's wrong with me? I don't have an opinion about anything.
Yeah.
And he really tried to get to the bottom of this with me, and he sat for quite a long time talking to me and asking me, surely you must have an opinion on this. And no, I don't have. What about this? No. So eventually, when he realised that I really don't know or don't care really,
Yeah.
he said to me, well, maybe just make up something original. Just make up anything just to kind of get by.
Yes.
So that people leave you alone, And it was great advice for surviving.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started to do that. It didn't always work, but...
Yeah. Do you still do it?
I don't really think about that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems to not be an issue anymore. It just kind of flows.
Right. So in the meantime, you aligned with the flow.